Indaba esikhombisa mazinga indaba ecala ethethwa ngemkhonto wamalandela amanye amacala ethethwa ngeindukwana sinibelele sinamukele ngephina bila wethamele khona i1 KZN TV igama lami ke nguphiwe ngokwamthembo njengoba sikhuluma nawe ke osunla namhlanje sikhuluma nawe ke sisethekwini lika banana sudla sushebana ulwandle indaba esegodweni okuyindaba ke ekhulunywa kakhulu namhlanje udaba oluthinto ke ukuvulwa kwemfuziselo ke emibili yabaholi abayibamba ke ngekhathi zobunzima ikakhulukazi ke eqenjini leAfrican National Congress uOliver Tambo kanjalo ke nowaba umengameli walelizwe wokuqala wentando yeningi uDokotela uNelson Mandela lemfuziselo ke ivulwe ke eThekwini ngokwehlukana nokusho ukuthi ke ngempela indlela okuchazwa ngayo kuthiwa ke izoheha kakhulu ke ivakashi ekuthenini ke ukwazi ukuthi kukhole umnotho wesifundazwe kuphinde futhi ke kukhole ke nomnotho weTheku lo mcimbi ke ubuhanjelwe umengameli wezwe uCyril Ramaphosa nokuyena ke othe wathula ke inkulumo ebhekiseke kwinkumbi zabantu abeyingxenye yalo lusuku asimtholeke uMatamela sithi ke abakhulume.
It is indeed an honor to be present here in eThekwini in Durban and to address you today on the historic occasion of the unveiling of these immense statues, 9 meters tall, gigantic, and representing the likeness of Presidents Nelson Mandela and O.R. Tambo. The Thekwini municipality has, and we're very proud of this, bestowed this honor on these two icons of our struggle and of our history in recognition of their contribution towards our struggle for freedom, a history which was so well presented, in part because it can never be complete, by Mac Maharaj and Jeff Radebe, leaders who struggled for social justice and the empowerment of our people. The monuments of this nature are important for preserving our history and our heritage as a people. They anchor the collective memory of a nation. When we look at them, we are able to have great memories, not only of what they stood for, but also of our nation and where we've come from. They are important as a public affirmation of the values which these two leaders represented and the principles for which they stood and they fought. It was the Roman philosopher Marcus Cicero who said, "The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living." And indeed it is so that their lives is today lodged in our memory as those who are alive today. They stand as a reminder to future generations of the road and journey our nation has traveled, but more importantly of the aspirations of our future. Younger generations who did not live through the troubled times of our country, from colonialism to apartheid, and who did not experience apartheid and the liberation struggle, will learn through the monuments of these two giants of our nation that indeed we have traversed a long path as a nation. Of course, statues such as these provoke a number of questions, but they also initiate conversations about their value, but more importantly about our past. The presence of Mandela and Tambo in bronze ensures that their stories, and indeed the story of our country, remains truly and fully embedded in the landscape of the daily lives of our people. and are not confined to textbooks. As today's unveiling, we reflect, or at today's unveiling, we reflect on the preeminent contributions that Tambo and Mandela made to the birth of a democratic South Africa. It is significant that these two statues are unveiled in the year that we celebrate 30 years of the adoption of our democratic constitution. It's a wonderful coincidence indeed, but I know for a fact that our mayor and his colleagues planned it so carefully to make sure that we unveil them this year. It was O.R. Tambo who initiated the drafting of the ANC's constitutional principles, which were developed while the liberation movements were still banned and while apartheid oppression was at its height. He had great vision and could see through the historic looking glass that the time had indeed come for South Africa to transition towards a constitution that would be the birth certificate of our entire nation. The constitutional principles anticipated the essential features of the democracy that we live in today. And 10 years after that, it was Nelson Mandela who signed our democratic constitution into law. It is one of the great coincidences of our history that the two partners of Mandela and Tambo attorneys were each to play such a pivotal role in the development and adoption of our democratic constitution and to build us the nation that they have done. The relationship between Mandela and Tambo was founded in a desire for justice. But this was not an elitist type of relationship, as Mac Maharaj said. It was a relationship that was given rise to by the people of our country. They knew as leaders that they were grounded on the will of the people of our country, and that what they did was not to represent themselves, even as they were the top lawyers of the time. Through their law firm, they fought for the rights of the poor and the marginalized. They fought for the rights of the oppressed and dispossessed. And they fought for those rights as lawyers, but they also did so as leaders who had been uplifted by our people. As young leaders, they were united in the defiance of unjust laws and in forging a vision of a South Africa which belongs to all who live in it and where the people themselves shall govern. That was their overriding commitment to a principle that based the will of the people above anything else. They could have been comfortable as lawyers, living a life of comfort, living a life that was completely removed from the struggles of our people. But they committed themselves to serving the people as the servants of our nation. As leaders of the ANC and founders of Umkhonto weSizwe, they took up arms against an apartheid state that was intent only on violent repression of our people. Even as they were separated for close on to 3 decades, Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo remained resolutely committed to the same cause. They fought the same struggle for liberation, and they strived towards the same vision.
Mbukeli ke njengoba sikhulumile ke umengameli wezwe siyafisa ukuthi siphinde sizwe nakwabanye omakade bona abayibamba ngekhathi zomzabalazo njengoba ke yena lapha ya uMike Maharaj kanjalo ke nomnumzane uJeff Hadebe okuyizinye ke zeyishoshovu zomzabalazo bevumelane ngazwi linye ukuthi ukuvulwa kwalezi itethu kuyosho ke ukuhluka nokushintsha kwempilo yabantu baseThekwini kanjalo nabantu bakulesi sifundazwe asibathole sithi abakhulume
to celebrate the lives of some of our leaders is a very important event. It is true that people make history, but leaders emerge as servants of the people. And in Mandela and Tambo, we have two giants of our struggle who emerged as true servants of the people. To remind ourselves of their service is a necessary exercise to look at their legacy, to question it, to challenge it, so that you begin to understand how they are relevant to today's challenges. So for me, the past lives in the present, and to recognize that past, to challenge it and interrogate it, is part of learning who we are.
Kunama-status esikhumbuzo sikababa uTambo noMandela. uTambo owaqeda iminyaka ewu-30 kwi-exile elwela inkululeko yabantu baseNingizimu Afrika. uMandela-ke yena-ke nje kade sengichazile uma ngomhla ka-11 kuFebruwari ka-1990 angilikhumbula kahle lolu suku ngoba ngilapha ejele eRobben Island sasicabanga ukuthi hhayi sesikhululekile-ke manje sithi uMandela uzothi impi phambili asilweni kodwa yena wathi hhayi akube khona uxolo. Yiko nje namhlanje sesiyazi ukuthi sigubhe iminyaka ewu-32 iNingizimu Afrika ikhululekile futhi neminyaka ewu-30 umthetho sisekelo owashicilelwa uMandela eVereeniging ngoDisemba ka-1996 okusho ngokusobala ukuthi lezi statute futhi nazo zizokwazi ukuthi zihehe bonke abantu abayizivakashi bazobona itheku ngoba siyazi ukuthi kunencwadi le yosomabhizinisi ekhombisayo ukuthi itheku iyona futhi engamanye amadolobha awu-14 emhlabeni athandwayo.
Mbukeli ke asikucacise ukuthi lolu hlelo kube uhlelo ke olude kakhulu nokusho ukuthi ke sizophinde futhi sikwazi ke ukuthi ke siliqhube nangosuku ke oluzayo empeleni ke ngosuku lwakusasa nokuyilapho sizobe siqedela khona ke inkulumo kaMengameli wezwe. Asiwenge kakhulu ukuthi ube ingxenye yalolu hlelo ukusuka ke eqaleni kuze kushayile isikhathi igama nguphiwe ngokwamthembu uncedinyoni encane yasha amaphiko yandisa. Ngivumeleni ngiguqe esiguqeni sonke siyothi suma kube kusoluzayo inkosi inibusise.